Hey, Shalom Shalom Mishboka. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. I'm your host, Rabbi Yehuda Ben Shomer, and this is the second video in the series regarding circumcision. So right now I want to tackle some passages that have been brought up regarding circumcision. One of the first ones that people bring to me is Galatians 2:3, where it talks about how Titus was not compelled to be circumcised. And therefore they say, oh, well, he didn't have to be circumcised, and that's why he chose not to be. I believe he eventually was. He just wasn't compelled to be circumcised at that particular time, because the whole context of the story that's surrounding that passage is that there was a group out there called the Judaizers. Now, the Judaizers were the sect of circumcision. They were called the sect of circumcision because they believed that Yeshua is the divine Messiah and that you had to keep Torah, but they believed that you had to be circumcised to be saved, and that's where they were all wrong. That's kind of like these Christian denominations today that believe you have to be baptized to be saved. So whoever you convert under and have your Brit Milah, circumcision, or your Hadafat Dam Brit, that is the sect that you are basically proclaiming to the world. I agree with this sect, I agree with their teachings, and that's why I'm being converted under them, and therefore I'm going to spend the rest of my days to the best of my ability, carrying out and believing and proclaiming this belief system. So that's why Titus wasn't compelled to be circumcised. He wasn't going to go into that whole peer pressure thing regarding that. Let's see, there is another passage that comes up. I know there's many of them, but I'm just going to tackle a few. Some are in Romans, and some are in Acts, and Colossians, and what have you. But another one is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, where basically it says, that whatever state that you're currently in when you are called, don't, well, let me see if I can't read this verse. Only as Elohim has distributed to each one, as the Master has called each one, so let him walk. And so I order in all assemblies, was one called while circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Was anyone called while uncircumcised? Let him not become circumcised. The circumcision is not, and the uncircumcision is not, but the guarding of the commandments of Elohim does matter. And in Romans 2, 26 through 29, it says, let each one remain in the same calling in which he was called. Were you called while a slave? And then it just kind of goes on. But basically what these verses are talking about is that whatever state that you come to know Messiah in, don't think that you have to change your status. If you become Torah observant in an uncircumcised state, don't feel like you have to be compelled to be circumcised. If you received the Messiah and become Torah observant while you were a slave, or while you were married, or whether you were in some other socioeconomic status, you don't have to change that status before or after your circumcision. Now, if you're a slave and you want to be free, well, yeah, go ahead and fight for your freedom, but don't think that, oh, well, I can't become circumcised or I can't keep Torah because I'm a slave. Or, well, I'm married and my spouse doesn't want to convert, therefore I can't convert. Or my spouse isn't saved, so therefore it's basically saying whatever state that you come to know Messiah in and follow the Torah in, you don't have to change that status. In circumcision for the Gentile, because it was mostly speaking to Gentiles, it is a matter of choice. You don't have to be circumcised to be saved. But if you want to, as I said in the first video, and you feel that pull and that compelling, and your motives and your heart is pure, then by all means go ahead and be circumcised. Rav Shaul was not saying that circumcision has been done away with, or that nobody should be circumcised. Also, when he's talking about bringing, that if you're circumcised and you bring that circumcision to naught, it means if you're circumcised, you better be prepared for what circumcision means. It means you have to walk the Torah and live like a Jew. If you're not ready for that, can't do that, or not prepared for that, then don't do it, because don't be circumcised and then live like you're uncircumcised is a lot of the points and a lot of the things that he was trying to drive home there. So I wanted to basically talk about those those verses and those issues that come up, because Rav Shaul has been taken out of context and saying, well, he was against Torah and he was against circumcision. No, you've got to understand who his audience was, the context of the passages of what they're speaking about, of the audience he was talking to, the circumstances and situations surrounding those topics, and what it was all about. And if somebody studies it out carefully, then I think people will come to the correct conclusion that circumcision hasn't been done away with. For the Jew, it's a requirement. For the Gentile, it's a choice. You can be a part of that covenant of Abraham if you want to, or don't. It doesn't matter. And also, let me see what my time is here. Okay, still got a little bit of time. Regarding Kepha and his vision of the unclean animals being dropped down from heaven in the prayer shawl, the talit, the sheet, he told Cornelius and his household that vision meant that he's not to call any Gentile common or unclean. Now, Cornelius and his house at that particular point in time was not circumcised, yet they believed that Yeshua is the divine Messiah, and they walked in the Torah. They were Torah observant. They were not called Jews. They were not called converts. They were not called Netzarim. They were called God-fearers. That's the title that they had, and that was given to them, and that they were called because they were not circumcised at that particular time for whatever reason. My guess is that probably many of them of Cornelius' household eventually did get circumcised, and if they didn't, it was no big deal anyway. If you choose not to be circumcised, don't let anybody treat you like you're a second-class citizen, or that you're in sin, or that you're wrong, and don't let anybody, be a snob to you if they're circumcised and they think that they're better. Call them out on the carpet, just like Paul called Peter out on the carpet. Now, in the scriptures, when it talks about circumcision and uncircumcision, sometimes it's talking about the sect of circumcision, where the Judaizers who believed that you had to be circumcised to be saved. And uncircumcision, a lot of times that's referring to Gentiles. So those are some Hebraic idioms that you need to be aware of when you're reading passages regarding circumcision, so you can kind of map it out and kind of hash it out there. So those are some other things that I wanted to bring up with you in this second video. Also, regarding circumcision, people say, well, what about spiritual circumcision? Well, can you grow a spiritual beard? No, you can't grow a spiritual beard. You can't you can't be spiritually circumcised. What that's saying is that the circumcision of the heart is that before you are circumcised outwardly, you must be circumcised inwardly. All the following the Torah with all your heart, doing it out of love for God as marital vows unto God, that's being circumcised in the heart. And if you're circumcised in your heart, you're a prime candidate to be circumcised in the flesh, if you choose to be so. That's the key there. So, if anybody brings up the topic or the subject regarding spiritual circumcision, there it is for you. So, running out of time here, and there may be a third one if I get enough questions, or go back and realize that there's something that I should have touched on that I didn't. So there might be a part 3, there might not. So hopefully you enjoyed Circumcisions Part 1 and 2, and please leave your comments and your questions, and I'll get back to them when I can. So we'll talk to you later. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Bye.